And we're going to talk about, of all things, Hot Connections. And I always kid it, it's not about dating. I love that. I mean, it's when I saw the title, I'm going, whoa, what is it? But anyway, Jesse is with me, Jesse Ehrenstein, and thank you so much. And your book, you've talked about so many things in your book. And first of all, I want to tell you that the Beverly Hills fire was, and that's not in California, that's in Kentucky, I believe it was.
Right.
And you actually testified in that case, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, so tell me, what happened in that fire how did it start? How did people not get out of the building? What happened?
I think that's a big,
Well, we'll condense a little
Sure.
bit, yeah.
basically, it was violations in all directions. There were no plans or training or general fire alarms in the
And it was a
building.
packed house, too.
It was a packed house. There were about 2,000 customers in the place. The staff did not know what to do. They improvised.
There was everyone for themselves, right?
Well, the staff was heroic, actually. A lot of people did what they would have done had they been trained. There were no general fire alarms.
No alarms?
No alarms.
And I understand that they went to the stage and said there's a fire and they thought it was part of the act.
Right, right. I'm glad you read the book. You obviously read the whole thing.
I'm telling you, it was an amazing story.
Yeah. The second part of the disaster is that the materials of the decorations in the place were highly flammable and gave off a very toxic smoke.
And of course, people die from smoke inhalation before they die of fire.
Right. Most of them were smoke inhalation.
Yeah.
And that was a cause of a big class action lawsuit also. The cause, because the destruction was almost complete, the cause is not really very well known. The area of origin is probably a region in the place about as large as this GE Theater.
Yeah, because if
approximates.
when the place is gone, it's hard for them to go in to investigate and figure out where was the source.
Right, especially since there was a lot of disturbing of the remains due to the efforts to recover bodies and find survivors.
Some people were crushed to death too. I mean, it was like, you know,
Yeah,
a tragedy that never should have happened.
like many others.
Yeah,
They-
and
they
it was-
fix things up after the fact.
Yeah, the design of the building wasn't very good either as far as egress and ingress.
Well, it never was designed as a club. It was a repurposed building.
Oh, okay.
And the authorities looked the other way on
Oh.
things like exits and alarms and safety features. That was
Terrible.
another issue.
Yeah, well, we're going to move on, though, and talk about, and I have to tell you, this is funny, because I was at a dinner, and somebody said, oh, you do a show, tell me who's coming on, and I said, well, I have this gentleman coming on, Jesse Ehrenstein, we're going to talk about fires and aluminum wiring. And the guy turned to me, he says, I can't believe that. He says, I just turned down buying a house because it was all had aluminum wiring in it. And it's like, what? So tell me about aluminum wiring and why it's not good, or is it okay?
Basically, the fundamental issue is that it has a skin on it of an insulating oxide. This is completely different from copper wire, which does not have an insulating skin on it. Copper
So if
has
you look at
oxi-
the wire, you wouldn't know what's inside,
The
right? I mean, you can't see the aluminum, right?
Well, that's correct. You
Right.
see the insulation.
That's what I'm saying. You don't see that.
The plastic insulation on it. But on the metal wire itself, as with all aluminum stuff, if you have aluminum screen storm door.
It
or-
oxidizes.
or aluminum
Yeah.
silverware, tableware, it has an oxide on
Yeah.
it. It's an invisible, very thin oxide, and it is a very good electrical insulator. And that puts special demands on connecting it, obtaining reliable connections that are safe in the
okay,
long term.
okay.
And what happens, the major problem in the homes was receptacles. We all have these, they're
Yeah.
probably 30, 40, 50 in a home.
Yeah, I'm afraid.
And so here's one, aluminum wired, and from the front, you don't see any problem.
I wouldn't even know if it was
But
aluminum.
in the backside, the insulation on the wire is burned off, and
Yeah, I think you can see that if I hold it up a little bit.
there's damage to the receptacle.
Yep, you
So
can see that.
in the box, this thing was overheating at the connection, and that caused the insulation on the wire to be destroyed, the plastic insulation, and that is contributing to the destruction of and burning, actually, of the receptacle. In the limit, these things cause fires, and there have been many fires documented around the country from this cause.
Well, I have to tell you, my refrigerator stopped working, and when they pulled it out, above my receptacle was black.
Really? Okay, well, there are.
So fortunately, the circuit breaker worked, but the guy says you were lucky. So maybe there was aluminum in there. They put in a G fault where, grounded.
You get failures in all types of wiring.
Yeah, I have no idea what my wiring is, so now you're making me nervous, Jesse.
But this was epidemic, because in 1965 timeframe, housing was booming, and copper prices were high.
Oh, copper's always been high, yeah.
And the contractors could save a few bucks on each house in a development. Let's say if there are 500 homes in the
That's a lot of
development,
money, a lot of.
$10, $20,
yeah,
$30 a home.
Yeah, adds up.
For cheaper aluminum wire.
And it was approved at the time, right? I mean, they wouldn't have made it if it wasn't approved at the time.
That's correct. Well, that was another source of the problem. It was approved without being thoroughly tested.
Oh, okay.
And that was by the agency, let's say, that we think of as the tooth fairy of electrical safety, Underwriters Laboratories.
Yeah, well, I always think whenever I see that Underwriters on it, that we're good to go. This is a good piece, you know.
This was an exception.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was
and-
like, it was like Boeing 737
exactly.
MAX is an exception.
Well, I want to just say that the contractors were not at fault, we'll put it that way, because they thought, even though it was cheaper, they thought it was okay.
That's right. It was marketed as okay. It was listed by UL for the purpose.
Yeah.
Everything is legitimate.
So it was not the contractors that were trying to, do damage to anybody.
That's correct.
Yeah. So your book, really, and I do want to, it's really a fascinating book. I would like to recommend this if you're interested at all in how fires start and what electrical wiring is about. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, it's more a book about people.
Yeah.
How people react in an industry that is supposedly or is self-regulating, where people have the authority to suppress a problem or to cure a problem.
Usually it's money, right?
But nobody has the responsibility to do it.
Oh,
They
okay.
they can do it, but nobody, it's a distributed system. Nobody is at the head of it saying, I have the responsibility for public safety here.
And yet we all believe that there is somebody at the top saying, this toaster is UL, it's good, use it, don't problem, you're never going to have.
And you still believe in the tooth fairy.
I do. So what can I, as a consumer, do? What can I do? If I can't believe the UL is okay,
Well, they are okay for most products. The problem is that when a safety issue arises, how do they react? Now, if you look at the UL website, UL does not recall any
there's no
products.
recalling like in
They have-
automobiles where they recall a part or something?
UL does not recall anything or do any alerting of the public to hazards
What?
other than posting Consumer Product Safety Commission recalls. In other words, they post government recalls, but they do not initiate any actions
That they
on
find
their
out
own
about.
of stuff they find out about.
Why is that?
It's
I
a
mean, it
commer-
certainly
It's a
can't-
commercial operation, is what it is.
So the UL is not really a protective body.
That's right. It has morphed from, in its 100 and some odd years of existence, it has morphed from a protective insurance
Yeah,
interest organization to a service organization to manufacturers. Their label is the key to getting a successful marketing.
which is, of course, is what the manufacturers want.
Right,
So who funds the UL?
the manufacturers.
Well, let's think about that.
There's a kind of a conflict of interest,
Yeah, I
isn't
would
there?
think so. Yeah, it's just like having, the pharmaceutical manufacturers, funding the FDA or something.
Right.
Or maybe they do, I don't know. Who knows?
Well, they fund some of the research,
Yeah, they
that's
do.
for sure.
Research is one thing, yeah. But the point is that we need to be aware of things. And if you smell something that doesn't smell right, because the ballast, sometimes you can smell those burning up or something. I don't know what we can do to protect ourselves except to have a plan to get out of our homes. And I just recently had a dear friend die in a fire. So, yeah, just recently. And she couldn't get out of we found out from the fire department she couldn't get out of the building in time. She died of smoke inhalation.
Well, there are multiple issues, and UL is involved in several of these, and the manufacturers. And one of these issues is combustible plastics
Oh,
that
yeah,
are used
yeah.
in the appliances, near electricity, near sources of ignition. There was one toaster made with a easily ignited combustible plastic
Well, who
shell.
was thinking of that
There
one?
were baby monitors that
Yeah.
were made with
I've heard the baby,
combustible.
yeah.
It isn't an easy problem to solve, and it's going to take probably a generation of
Yeah.
activists.
And
to
these are
change
preventable,
it.
these are preventable deaths, these are preventable. If you have a plan, and the other thing is, a lot of things that we put carpets in our homes if they get on fire, they get fumes that will knock you out, and,
Well, there's an example. Consumer Product Safety Commission got involved in carpet safety many years ago, and so we went up the ladder a few rungs on carpet safety from that.
yeah. See, I mean, it's you never know where it's coming from.
There is a role for government here, because government represents the consumer.
Exactly.
The people who buy.
They should be
it.
impartial, not have the interest of the manufacturer or the producers or whatever it is. They need to
That's
be
correct.
the advocate for the people that they're protecting them.
That's correct.
Get the book. It's called Hot Connections. It's written by Jesse Ehrenstein, and you'll be amazed. It's really a very good book. So thank you for being here.